One of the most common questions I get for Football Manager on console is how do I manage my staff? How do I add new stuff? How do I set their responsibilities? How do I look for new stuff? How do I advertise for new stuff? So I'm going to show you how to do all of those things today. This is for the console version. It will work on the console version on PC, and on PC you'll get more things. So the first thing to note is obviously if I come here, you will see that this is one of the things, the few things, but I've got a whole video on comparisons between the two versions of the games. But this is one of the few things that is different between the full PC non-console version and the console version, and that is that the staff are cut down a little bit, so you don't have all the coaches, all the sports scientists, all the physios, all the set piece coaches, fitness coaches, goalkeeper coaches that you would normally have. They exist in a way, but they're just not there, so you'll still get the sort of benefits from them, but they're just not there in the game. So it's not like your team are not going to train set pieces just because you haven't got a set piece coach, or not going to train fitness just because you haven't got a fitness coach. It's all actually going to be based on things like your assistant manager, your head of youth development, etc. So these are the staff that you have in the console version. You have your chairperson. Of course, you cannot change your chairperson. I'm just loading in as Leicester here, and we have, I can't pronounce his Thai name. So yeah, we have the Thai chairperson of Leicester City. We have our chief scout. We have our director of football. We have our assistant manager. We have our head physio, and we have our head of youth development, and myself. Obviously, I can't replace myself. Now, in terms of actions here, we don't have any because it's actually listed on the chairperson, but we can go in and have a look. Any members of the staff, they're given a rating out of 5. So, you know, obviously chief scout is excellent. I'm actually the worst here, although the physio is also a 2.5 star. But we can go in, for example, to Martin Glover, and you will see his coaching attributes on the right here. And if you click medical, you can also see his medical attributes. You probably don't need them. Mainly for the chief scout, and it's just underneath my head, you'll see judging player ability, judging player potential, and those are going to be the two most important ones, alongside things like adaptability that helps him, you know, go overseas and look for other players, and his scouting knowledge down here. So you can see he's recommended chief scout. He could be a director of football. If you want to offer him a new contract, you can press your start button, options button, and you can offer him one here. You can also get your director of football to do that. If you want to get rid of him, you can also do that here. You can also compare him with other stuff, or you can find similar stuff. So maybe you want to see if there's someone a bit better out there in terms of chief scout. You can find someone similar staff and decide from there. So you've got all your options here in the start menu. You can also go along and find out more information about him, so you see how much he's being paid. If you use the R1, L1, or the right bumper, left bumper, you can see the clauses that he has. So if they get promoted back to the Premier League, Martin Glover is going to get more money. You can see the reports that he has produced as the chief scout, so the reports that he is bringing in. You can do a comparison. You need to choose someone who you can compare him with. At the minute, it's just showing me the Leicester ones, but if you look at some other members of staff, it will show you other ones, and you can see his history, which at the minute we don't have any. But if he's been with you for a long time, hopefully there's a bit of history in there. Let's have a look at some of the others just to show you how they differ. So let's go in, for example, Willie Carabao is our assistant manager here at Leicester, and you can see actually he has a little bit better. You have the size of the scouting team here as well. So you can see, like I said, the scouts are here, but you just don't see them. So if we come into reports again, obviously he's my assistant manager, so he's not producing reports, and it'll be the same, for example, on the head physio. We don't even get that option. You can see on the head physio, as I've just gone here, you can also go to contract offer if I wanted to offer him a new job, depending on what role I necessarily wanted to give him. But yeah, but that is an overview of your staff as they exist now. You can also view it on this screen here, and you can also quickly go into any of them through this screen here, which is the members screen, and you can find out the details. You want to sort them by their coaching attributes, you can do that as well. In terms of responsibilities, this is where you set where you want them to do. So I leave the first team training to the backroom staff, but if you want to take that over, particularly on console version, it's not too onerous. You can take that on. Reserve training I leave to the backroom staff, but I want to do the set pieces. I'm going to do the recruitment. I'm going to do the transfers. Staff, maybe I leave to the backroom. Sometimes I do it myself. Again, there's not many here, so it's not too onerous a proposition. Opposition instructions, and again, friendlies, if you want your backroom staff to handle the friendlies or not. If we come into the job center, this is actually going to show you all the vacancies that are available. Now, really, only the ones, you can't really do much with these except for the ones which are manager vacancies, because you can apply for them. Below my head is a little apply button in case you want to apply for that manager as well. But otherwise, you can't do much with these. You just have a browse through and see what kind of jobs. Most people here seem to be looking for head physios or chief scout. Now, if you do have any vacant positions in your staff, at the bottom right hand corner, underneath my head about here somewhere, there's a button that says place advert. You can place an advert for the position that's vacant, and in a couple of weeks it will come through with a number of applicants for that job, and you can decide if you want to hire any of them, or if you want to continue the advert, or if you want to stop the advert, and you can go and have a look for the staff member on your own. On job security screen, you can't do much here. You can just see where people are insecure in their jobs. So what we're going to do, we're going to come down now to the recruitment screen. If we go across on the recruitment screen at the top using the R1 or right bumper button, and I've got one too far, you'll see we land here on staff search, and you'll see preferred job. Doesn't mean that's the job they're necessarily going to take. You might be able to convince a assistant manager to take a director of football job, but these are their preferred jobs. If they're already at a club, the job at the club that they are already at as well. You can filter this down if you press triangle, and you can set some search criteria or some attributes. And let's say we want to find, we probably want a scout, so we're going to choose the attributes. In fact, we can even choose over here. We want someone, recruitment team, chief scout, and we want to find judging player ability, judging player potential, and we'll search for those. And that's going to give me all the chief scouts, a couple of director of footballs in there, one head of youth development who are better than that. So let's say I want to hire Augustine Araujo Daco instead of my current chief scout. We can go in, we can have a look at him. We can even compare him with our own scout, who's Martin Glover. I think Martin Glover is probably the better one. So, you know, we're probably not going to make the change here. But if we did, we could go in and we could approach to sign him. It will replace Martin Glover. It'll tell you down the bottom here. But yeah, that's how you go in and get some new members of staff. So you can judge, you can adjust that however you like. You can clear it. You can say whether you want them employed or not. You can set their world reputation as well. So let's say we want someone who's going to be a good coach. Now, the goalkeeping ones are interesting because there is no position of goalkeeping coach. So let's just go for attacking, mental, defending, technical. And let's go for, we want like a 12 in all of those. It's given us a few, most of them head of youth developments, although Brian Kidd, of course, the famous Brian Kidd. We could see if we can get Brian Kidd in. Of course, Man United for a long time as a player. But hopefully we can get Brian Kidd in. Let's see if we can approach. Actually, let's compare him first. Let's compare him. So we want to compare him with Willie Caballero is our assistant right now. And they're pretty close. I think Willie Caballero is probably obviously the better goalkeeper coach. But on actual coaching outfield, we might be better off with Brian Kidd here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and sign Brian Kidd. So you're just going to go through your normal contract negotiation here. You can, of course, add things in as always. We can offer that. There we go. And it would release Willie Caballero if he comes in. There are other little things you can do with your member of staff. So, for example, if you come here to the director of football page, you can ask him for some suggestions. You can create groups of transfer targets. You can also have a look at the development list and the unwanted list of players you've looked at before. But yeah, your director of football here is going to handle the incoming transfer activity on players on the transfer target list. Something interesting is you will have seen that he had 1.5 star on the other screen, but he's actually a 4-star head of youth development. And that's because his reputation is being shown on the other screen, which is kind of low. Other things to bear in mind, things like language can be important. So if you're in Italy, you probably don't want someone who can't speak Italian, who's not able to learn Italian. They're going to need a little bit more adaptability, or they're going to need to be fairly adaptable to change and learn the language of the country they're in. But it can be useful to have scouts, for example, chief scouts from around the world who have a wider scouting knowledge that you can use to scout more players. So that's how you use staff in Football Manager on console. Like I said, it's a lot simpler than on the PC version, but you've got all the main roles there, and it's going to do all the same things as on the PC version. You just got it truncated into 2 or 3 key roles. Now, I did do a full guide for Football Manager on console back in FM23. Most of that, 99% of that, still applies to FM24. So I'm going to put the playlist just here and the full video as well, in case you want to go back and check that out. Also got a video on how to find Wonder Kids in FM console version as well.